I've got Nils Warnke here with me. Nils is lead architect for IP Core at Deutsche Telekom. We just got to meet backstage a moment ago. Thank you for being here with us.
My pleasure. Thanks to host me here.
So appreciate it. And our own Jason Teller, Vice President of Sales at Cisco. Jason, thanks for coming in.
Great to be here as well.
I have no idea how you found the time to do it, but very grateful to have you here. And again, when it comes to partnerships, we always make the time. It's incredible the way that works. So here's where I want to begin this conversation, because I got a lot to cover, right? I want to start with the nature of the partnership. You are leading the business behind Cisco Routed Optical Networking. So let's start there. What is Cisco Optical Routed Networking? Why are customers like Deutsche Telekom getting so excited about it, so that everybody understands what we're talking about here?
Right, well, we'll try to make it really simple. In the old days, you had IP, you had optical networks. These were two separate things. That meant maintaining two separate things. That meant the expense of that, the space of that, the staffing of that. And routed optical networking is just convergence at its core. So being able to plug something into a router, and now you're reducing complexity, much simpler to operate. You're reducing power, space, everything like that. And so we've got a ton of customers, including DT, that are moving forward on this journey, and it just makes a lot of sense.
And especially right now, since simplicity is everything, especially in a stack that is getting more and more complex by the day. And again, we're talking about AI, which is doing nothing but creating additional needs for power and space. We heard a ton about that this morning here from G2 as well. So Nils, let's come on to your side. Same sort of thing. Describe Deutsche Telekom's high-level business objectives, and specifically what drove your decision to pursue routed optical networking convergence. What changes in the industry or in technology influenced you and influenced DT to say, we got to make this happen?
Yes, okay. So DT has a history about IP optical networking. Our first attempt was in 2012 when we had our first introduction of IP over WDM, where we pretty much failed. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because we learned very valuable lessons on that. And we failed, I would say, because of 2 points. First of all, our organization wasn't ready. And second of all, the technology wasn't ready. Yeah. So from a technological point of view, the line cards were still separate, so you didn't have a uniform line card. So for IP over WDM, you needed special equipment that really drew high level of powers, and it did not scale. And it was Cisco proprietary. So all of these things have shifted over the last years until 2022, roughly, when there was standardization coming up. A lot of standardization bodies were working on that. There was a uniform line card coming up, not just from Cisco, but from all of the vendors. So that really enabled us to say, okay, on this port, we're going to plug a classical gray interface. On that port, we're going to plug a coherent interface. And all of that on the same line card, because the DSP chip that was previously on the line card moved towards the optical pluggable. So from a technical point of view, that was the right time. And also from an organizational point of view, back in 2012, we were really in a siloed organization. Yeah. We had optical teams, we had IP teams, and even within those teams, we had structure silos for design, for planning, for operations. And they were not integrated teams. Over the last 8 years, DT has reinvented ourselves, and we have restructured towards an end-to-end responsibility, having one team responsible for that. So what we learned from that is that back in 2023, when we were starting the journey, the time was right because our organization was ready. And due to the 2012 failure, our teams knew each other really well. Yep. They liked working with each other, and that actually helps a lot if you start this journey.
It's so true. I always love to call this failing upward. We always think of failure as the bad ideas. No, it's where the new ideas get generated from it. I think that's also how we develop our relationships with great partners, right, Jason?
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you framed it up that way. I see it the same way. I mean, you help us learn. We move to a more open system, and clearly, we wouldn't get to where we were today without that sort of experience. But one other thing that you mentioned, and I think it's a key aspect, is it's about the organization too. There has to be not just the technology that works and the maturity there, but also a willingness inside the organization, a trust, and sometimes just a structure that supports operating in that way. And we've definitely seen that in this routed optical networking journey. And it's not unlike AI. I think there's an analog there when it comes to, you got to go on the journey and kind of who's got their hand on the wheel.
It's perfectly put. Yeah, that's exactly right. So Nils, if you look at the nature of network transformation at this level of magnitude, this is a big, daunting thing. It's a very difficult decision to actually make. Where did the confidence finally come from? So go back to those steps that your org did have to make to confidently adopt coherent optics within your network and for your networking teams.
So yes, we started off doing a very thorough analysis of the industry, of the market, where we have to look, what is the industry doing? What is the standardization approach to this? Can we really adapt this for an interoperable vendor, in an interoperable vendor scenario that we have? Yeah? Because DT by heart is always dual vendor.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure it really works on both of our vendors and on at least 2 of our WDM systems as well that we have underlaying. So I would say we approached it the German way. Testing,
right?
Testing, testing, and qualification.
Great. Over a 5-year period or a 10-year period.
Let's say more than 6 months. So
Okay.
we really did a thorough test. So we started off doing paper tests. So doing everything Excel spreadsheet based. Laying out how are our connections, what are the lengths, what is the quality of the connection. Do we think that can actually work? We did that together with Cisco team. And the first indicator, and we said we are going to do 3 scenarios, the best case, the worst case, and the middle case. And we only looked at the worst case.
Okay.
Because we said if the worst case works, then the other ones are fine.
Right.
So in this initial analysis, we came up and said, okay, 80% of our connectivities within Germany should work. So that gave us the confidence to say, okay, Cisco, now, please, you have fantastic knowledge of our network. You have fantastic tool sets at your hand. Please do some simulations and come back and show us the results. And those results basically confirmed what we had done in the paper test. So after that, we invited both of our vendors into our lab and said, okay, now prove it to us. So we started off with the easy way and said 300 kilometers in the lab. Let's do it like that. Of course, that was easy, right? Then we did 600 kilometers, added more spools, and there are great pictures of the teams working with those spools, to put that over the DWDM system. That worked flawlessly, and we had enough OSNR buffers to really operate that. And so we said, okay, let's push it to the edge. And we added another horseshoe ring into it in order to really maximize it out. And we were able to get 850 kilometers out of it, and it was still working. So that gave us the confidence to say, okay, in the lab it looks good. So now let's do a production pilot. So we went to the production and said, okay, Berlin, Hamburg. That was Cisco to Cisco. That was not multi-vendor, but as a first case it was good. Let's try that. Those are 350 kilometers in the live network. Can that work? We turned it up, the lights came on, and the connectivity was there.
Right.
So it was a really successful test. We let it run for a couple of days, and it was so successful we turned it down again.
Amazing.
Because we wanted to do 600 kilometers, so we rerouted it, and it was still really flawless. So that gave us the confidence to really start with that.
This is such a great story because for so many of the people who are watching who aren't sure whether or not to hop on board, how they're going to do their own verification and validation, it's so good to be able to hear it directly from you. Jason, if we think about it from the Cisco side, how were we able to work with DT, help them develop that trust, get into the lab, do exactly what they needed in order to be able to partner with us and create the investment?
Well, it takes the willingness of a good partner, and we sure thank you for that. We bring to bear a bunch of things. We've got an enormous specialist team that has skills and capabilities to work with you on that day-to-day basis. I think setting up kind of the way you described it, an MVP. What's the minimum way to do this, and focusing there, because obviously if you can meet that, the sky's the limit beyond that. At the end of the day, I think we know that it works, and that's the most interesting part of this story to me. Is you described 10, 12 years ago, where it was like we had an idea and it wasn't ready for prime time, and in the end it's kind of inevitable. That's what you just described as a journey towards we must save power, we must save space, we must get more operationally efficient, and we know this will work. And so I think kind of a single-mindedness around, both on our side, but certainly on our service provider partner side, around this is the future, this is the way to do it. And inside what you talked about, you abstracted the whole thing. Oh, it went 350 kilometers, it went 600 kilometers. But we're talking about what used to be an optical line system and lots of big gear to do this, and now it's a pluggable. It just plugs right into the router port, and we're able to do all this. So it's pretty amazing at the end of the day.
It is pretty amazing, and it's exciting as well. It's the whole concept of necessity is the mother of invention, right? We know that we need to go there, and we have to go ahead and make that happen. So, Nils, what are a couple of the tangible benefits that you've seen so far directly since implementing routed optical networking? What has it led to? What have the payoffs been?
So I would give a two-sided answer. The first one is rather obvious. We have the CapEx savings because the most expensive part of the optical network we don't have to buy. Those are the transponder shelves. Yeah. But and we also have the OpEx savings in terms of power and cooling, because if you don't, if you save 85% of your power, you also save on the cooling. But the less obvious side is that during the implementation, we completely had to redesign our bring into service processes. And these bring into service processes were redesigned in a way that the automation was put up front, so that we said all of this has to be automated in the target picture. Mm. And we wanted to add quality measurement steps in between, so that we could really get tangible benefits out of that. And what we saw is that it worked quite well, and that we could leverage these processes also for other WDM lines connections that we use in the backbone.
Excellent. Jason, I'm going to give you the last word from our side as well, right? So when we talk about the benefits that DT has seen, what are we getting excited about as far as what's next, and what are we hearing from customers even beyond DT?
Yeah, look, the whole keynote was about AI, and it's sort of the critical infrastructure for AI, and these are building blocks, and being able to execute at scale, being able to be more efficient in the way we roll out infrastructure. Look, there's 450 customers worldwide that have embarked on routed optical networking, that have it installed and running. You guys are a great example, and we sure appreciate working with DT. But I think what this does is it sets up scale and efficiency and reliability and simplicity and all of those things as we step towards networks that need to be much different than they were in the past.
Couldn't have put it better. Jason, thank you. Nils, appreciate it. Congratulations to you both. Phenomenal partnership, and thank you for bringing this story to us.